Ever had your car stall out in traffic, or have the battery work, and the starter try to turn over the engine, but rather than it turning over, it just clicks? And then when you have a repairman or a friend check your connections, the battery is lighting up. The problem might not be the battery within your electrical system, but rather the alternator. The alternator serves to recharge the battery as you drive. Now, it can go for a multitude of reasons, but the primary reason why they go is just the number of miles logged on it. Today, I'm going to show you how to replace an alternator in a 98 GMC Safari. To make this repair, you're going to have a certain number of tools. The tools we're going to use for this repair are as follows: the new alternator, a clamp wrench just in case, a bit set, in this particular case, size 13 with an extension if the area is tight, a screwdriver for loosening any of the clamps, additional wrenches for other bits, and most importantly, a serpentine tool belt kit. Now, depending on the model of vehicle you're working with, the alternator may be around this area, but with this particular model, the alternator is way down in here, which means you're going to have to do some disassembly in order to do the repair. So, in my case, I have to remove the mass air intake sensor. Now, for this purpose, I've already pre-loosened it by twisting this and loosening the clamp so that I can remove the air intake system. Now, furthermore, I'm going to have to remove these bolts down here and here in order to take out this assembly right here, which covers up the fan, so that I can more easily access the alternator. So, you have to loosen all these bolts, and for the purpose of this, I'm not going to show you all the loosening, but this is about the function you're going to do. You're going to loosen the ones on top, and then you're going to get in here, mount it on the bolts, and you're going to loosen these. Stop. So once you get this out, which can be a bit of a pain, we can then get in here, and you can see the alternator is exposed. Now, in order to release the alternator, we have to detension the belt and remove this bolt and this bolt. So let's do that now. So, once you have released the tension on the cable through this little doohickey right here, you can start unscrewing the screws, or the bolts that hold the alternator in place. Once you've removed the bolts, you can then more or less pop it right out, perhaps with some assistance. Sometimes it may not want to agree with you. Like so. Once it has been popped out, all you have to do is disconnect the cables in the back and slide in the new one. Once you disconnect it and remove it, you can then insert the new part. Okay, so once you have taken out the old alternator There was a little bit of a complication here regarding the wires that I addressed. It probably wouldn't happen if you were working with a regular vehicle, and due to the length of this video, I'm not going to address it. But in short, you would then take the alternator and remount it in the place where the old alternator resided. In the process, you will also hook up these wires back into their respective ports. The one wire is held in place by a nut, which you would then screw back into place, and the other clips in, as indicated here and here. You stop? Alright, once you have clipped in the wires on it, you will then take the bolts and reinsert them and retwist them in so as to properly mount the alternator so that it doesn't go anywhere while you're using it. Alright, once you have remounted it, you then have to re-hook up the serpentine cable so that it will actually generate a charge. And you do that by finding the auto tensioner using the special tools in the serpentine kit. Small square bolt like this. You will remove the tension from the auto tensioner, and it'll allow you to work with the actual cable. And once the cable is lined up and hooked onto it, you'll be able to then proceed with hooking up all of the wires and all of the tubing and reassembling the engine cover so that you can drive your vehicle again. Once you have loosened the auto tensioner belt on it, it should look something like this. The cable is taut. Everything is in place. You want to make sure that all the belts are in the proper location. You rehook up any fuses or hoses that you disconnected in order to gain access, and then you begin the process of reassembling the engine cover, which consists of putting this back in and screwing it into place, and then taking the airflow fan and sensor and rehooking it up. And then you would turn over the battery, or rehook up the battery, and then try to turn over the engine. And it should from there, proceed to demonstrate that the alternator is working, because the battery will start gaining charge again when you're driving. And that is how you change an alternator.